Tomorrow, Liora was promised to another. That was how the village women said it when they thought she could not hear, like rain on the way, like a bell that always rang on time. Promised, as if she were bread already divided into portions. She sat on the low stone wall behind her father's house and watched mist drift over the fields. Beyond the hills lay the Blackwood, and beyond that, the road that ended at a fortress no one visited and everyone feared. Castle Varyn. The Monster King lived there, people said. A vampire with eyes like winter stars and a hunger older than scripture. Speak his name at night and your candle would gutter. Leave a window open and he would slip inside like an unwelcome thought. And yet the strangest part of every tale was always the same. He never came. Not in any story anyone could prove. Only in stories that fed on fear. Tomorrow, Liora would be taken to the manor at the riverbend to marry Lord Hadrian's son, payment for a debt her father never explained. The young man wasn't cruel. He was simply empty in the eyes, polite as a closed door. He never asked what she wanted. Liora did not believe in curses or saviors. Still, some nights, when her life felt too small to breathe in, she thought of the Monster King, not because she wanted him to appear, but because she wished the world's fear would fall somewhere else for once, somewhere larger than her. She went to bed quietly. In the middle of the night she woke with the feeling of being watched, not hunted, not threatened. Observed with a strange, careful attention, like someone standing at the edge of a decision. The window was latched, yet the curtain shifted as if touched by a hand that didn't disturb the air. On the sill sat a small bundle wrapped in dark cloth. Inside was a vial of honeyed liquid, dried herbs, and a folded note with no signature. 3 lines, written in steady, elegant script. For sleep without fear. For courage without noise. For tomorrow, if you need a door that opens. Liora held the note to her chest. She did not know who had left it or how. But she knew it was meant for her. Outside, the night remained still. Far beyond the hills, a raven lifted from a tower that did not show its shape against the dark. By morning the village wore its best face. Women came with ribbons and pins, murmuring about duty. Men spoke of fortune as if fortune always arrived shaped like a cage. Liora stood while they dressed her in someone else's future. Her father avoided her eyes. A carriage arrived bearing the manor's crest. Lord Hadrian's steward stepped down, smooth as wax. "It is time," he said. As Liora stepped outside, she stopped. Near the old elm by the road, a pale flower had bloomed overnight, out of season, white as a small lantern against the earth. She touched its petals. Real. Soft. Alive. Then she climbed into the carriage. The road wound between fields and stone fences. Everything looked ordinary, and that was what made it feel cruel. Inside, the steward read from a ledger. "You will be treated well," he said. "A room with a view of the river. Obedience and gratitude will be expected." "Does anyone expect happiness?" Liora asked. The steward paused, as if the word did not belong in his book. "Happiness is changeable." "I'm not," Liora said. At the river crossing, they reached an old stone bridge. Villagers stood near the bank, murmuring about the strange current. Halfway across, the horses balked. The driver coaxed them, but they refused to move. Then the air changed, not colder, just fuller. like a room when someone important enters without speaking. At the far end of the bridge, beneath a willow, stood a figure in a dark cloak. Stillness, patience, and a presence that made the villagers go quiet. "Varyn," someone whispered. "The Monster King." The steward turned pale, clutching his ledger like it might save him. The figure lifted his head. Liora couldn't see his eyes clearly, but she felt his attention rest on her like a gentle hand. He didn't threaten. He didn't advance. He didn't perform for the story. He stepped aside. Not blocking the path. Opening it. The horses moved again as if released from something invisible. The carriage rolled on. As they passed the willow, Liora saw his face, pale like moonlight on marble, dark hair tied back, expression tired rather than cruel. His gaze met hers. No hunger. No claim. Only recognition. He lowered his head slightly, as if to say, "I see you." When Liora looked back, the bridge was empty. Only a white flower lay on the stone where he had stood. By midday rain began, soft and steady, almost kind. They reached the manor as chapel bells rang. Liora waited in a warm room while sharp voices and laughter drifted down the hall. A knock came. Lord Hadrian's son, Alaric, stepped in, wearing formal clothes like armor he hadn't chosen. "I asked if we could delay it," he admitted quietly. "They refused." Liora asked. He nodded, ashamed. "They said love is a luxury. They said gratitude should be enough." Liora felt something soften inside her, not joy, but the relief of hearing one honest voice in a room built of bargains. "If you want to run," Alaric whispered, "I won't stop you." Before she could answer, his mother entered, eyes sharp as iron. "Come," she said. The chapel was small and candlelit. Guests watched with bright curiosity as the priest began reciting vows and duty, words worn thin from use. Then Liora heard a tapping. A raven perched on the side window, feathers glossy with rain. Tap. The priest continued, unaware. Tap. Liora remembered the note, "If you need a door that opens." Tap. The window swung inward on a hidden hinge with a whisper. No shattering. No spectacle. Just a latch releasing, as if it had been waiting to be forgiven. Cool rain air slipped into the chapel. People gasped. Someone prayed. Lord Hadrian's wife turned, horrified. The raven hopped onto the sill and looked at Liora like a messenger. Liora moved before her courage could change its mind. Alaric did something small and brave. He shifted, blocking his mother's view for one heartbeat, tugging the ceremonial cloth as if adjusting it, making the briefest curtain. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Liora climbed onto the sill, eased onto the ledge, then down to the garden where wet leaves shone. Voices rose behind her, shock, outrage, commands. She didn't look back. She ran toward the woods. At the edge of the trees, she stopped. A figure waited beneath dripping branches, dark cloak, calm posture, the same quiet gravity as on the bridge. The Monster King. He didn't reach for her. He didn't hurry toward her. He waited, like someone who understood that even rescue can become another kind of prison if it is forced. "I saw you," Liora whispered. "On the bridge." "I know," he said. His voice was low, steady, human in its restraint. "Did you send the bundle?" she asked. "The note?" He glanced once toward the manor behind her, then said, "Yes." "Why?" Lyora's throat tightened. "People say you are." "They say many things," he replied gently. "Are any of them true?" A slow breath. "I am what they fear," he said. "And I am what I choose." "And what do you choose?" He looked at her, not at her torn dress, not at her price, not at the role others had written for her. At her face, at her eyes, at the part of her that had been waiting all her life to be seen without being measured. "I choose," he said, "to make sure you are not forced." Hoofbeats sounded in the distance, riders searching through rain. "They're coming," Liora whispered. The king stepped forward and raised one hand, not in threat, but in a quiet boundary drawn in the air. The riders slowed as if the world itself asked them to reconsider. "She is not property," he called, voice carrying without shouting. One rider swallowed. "My lord, she is betrothed." "Betrothal is a vow," the king said. "Vows cannot be forged like coins." "She must return," another insisted, trying to sound brave. The king's expression softened, almost sadly. "If you return without her, your mistress will be angry." "Yes," the rider admitted. "Then return with this instead." He drew a small leather pouch from his cloak and tossed it into the mud. The rider opened it and stared at the gold, old coins, enough to settle debts and end bargains. "Tell them the debt is paid," the king said. "Tell them she is free. Tell them you never saw her." The riders hesitated, then turned their horses and rode back, quieter than they had arrived. Liora stood trembling, not from cold, but from the ache of being protected without being claimed. "They'll say you stole me," she whispered. "I know," the king said. "They prefer simple stories." "What do you want from me?" Liora asked, because the world had trained her to believe every gift came with a hook. He flinched as if the question hurt. "Nothing," he said. "Only that you choose your own life." After a pause, he added, "I can take you to shelter beyond the Blackwood. Or to the city. Someone there helps people begin again." Liora searched his face. "What is your name?" He was silent long enough that she thought he would refuse. Names made legends into people. Finally he said, "Edras." "Edras," she repeated, and it sounded less like a monster and more like a man. "If you speak it in the wrong place," he warned softly, "it will cause fear." "Then I'll speak it in the right place," she said. Something in his eyes shifted, cautious and real. They walked through the wetwoods together for a while, the raven hopping from branch to branch above them like a quiet guide. "Why do you let them fear you?" Liora asked. "At first I tried to correct them," Edras said. "I sent food in hard winters. I returned lost children. Each kindness became rumor. Each rumor became a weapon." He brushed rain from a fern with careful fingers. "Fear was easier for them. Fear gave them a villain, so they didn't have to look at their own hands." "So you stopped helping?" Liora asked. "No," he said. "I stopped asking to be understood." At a mossy stone marker where the road split, Edras stopped. "If I go farther," he said, "my presence will draw attention." "You won't come?" Liora asked, throat tight. His restraint was its own tenderness. "If I stay beside you," he said, "you'll never know whether people greet you because of you, or because they fear me." Liora swallowed. "Then I'll be alone again." "You won't." He placed a small silver charm in her palm, just a plain circle, unmarked. "If you ever need a door," he said, "hang this on a branch at twilight. I can't promise to fix everything, but I will come, if I can." Quietly. "What does it cost you?" Liora asked. Edras looked away. "To remain the monster in their story," he said softly, "so someone else can be the human in their own." "That isn't fair," she whispered. "No," he agreed. "But fairness and kindness don't always share a road." "I'll remember," Liora said. "Not the stories. The truth." Edras met her gaze, then stepped back into the trees without drama, like mist returning to the forest. Liora stood alone at the crossroads, damp hair loose, dress torn, future unknown. And for the first time, the unknown felt like space instead of a trap. She turned toward open country and walked. In the weeks that followed, the story spread. A debt had been paid. A bride had vanished. The Monster King had been seen in daylight, and no one had died. People tried to shape it into something familiar. Some said he stole her. Some said he cursed the manor. But a timid servant who had ridden in search of her began to whisper a different version when no one listened too closely. "He didn't take her," he said. "He let her go. And he looked tired, like someone blamed for storms he never made." Liora reached the city and found the woman Edras had mentioned, a baker with flour on her sleeves and stern, steady kindness. Liora learned work that belonged to her. She learned to eat meals she earned. She learned to laugh without checking the shadows. Sometimes at twilight she rubbed the silver charm between her fingers. She never hung it on a branch. Not because she didn't trust him. Because she didn't want his protection to become a chain. Yet some nights she whispered, "Thank you, Edras," as if gratitude could cross forests. One evening, months later, she found a white flower blooming beside the bakery's back door, out of season, impossible, real. On the roof above, a raven watched. When it saw her looking, it dipped its head once and flew toward the distant hills. Liora went back inside to warm ovens and cooling bread, living the life she had chosen. And far beyond the city lights, in a castle the world still called cursed, a king sat at a high window listening to wind, to wings, to the ordinary sound of people continuing to live. He asked for no songs. No praise. No forgiveness. He simply kept watch, opening doors custom had locked, paying debts no one should have owed, and letting the world misunderstand him, if misunderstanding was the price of someone else's freedom. Because true kindness does not always look like light. Sometimes it looks like a shadow standing gently between you and harm, silent, steady, and kind enough to let you go.